Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's August 8th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and we finally got some movement. Unfortunately, we still don't have a lot of trades here. This was not an easy day to find a for sure trade. There were a couple of trades here that are textbook, and if you caught them, you probably did really well. But if you missed those two reversals, you probably had a hard time finding a trade today. So, yeah, it just wasn't an easy day to find a trade. There's not a lot of them, but we did get some movement. For whatever reason, we had a little buying spree, and it wasn't long at all before it ran out of steam, and boom, the bottom fell out of it. You had a couple more chances on the way down, but going up, I saw most of these more as green, and I'll explain those as we get there. This one, this is my textbook entry that I love. You're really going sideways here in a very tight range. This was going on when I came in, and I tell you, it was really tempting to go short here. But if you see that across there, you cannot go short there. Even though it looks like it probably would have worked here, you got to skip that because the play is to buy it when it fails on the way down, uh, when it fails on the way out of the bottom and reverses. And this one, you could almost, only reason this is not blue is because it's not a perfect signal bar. It's fairly bullish, but we're closed a couple of ticks off the high. So it worried me a little bit to make that one blue. So if you caught it, though, that's the trade of the day. And you hear me talk about this a lot. Uh, Usually when you get these failed breaks lower or higher, oftentimes they turn out to be major low or high points for the day. In this case, it's turned out to be a major low point, at least at that point of the day, because we ended up going, um, that's around 24.73, and prices ended up going to 24.88. So, it's 11 points higher. And so I would call that a major low or an important low right there. So if you got a chance to catch that one, it is a little bit aggressive because of the signal bar. Maybe your signal bar looked a little better. Um, if so, that's great. And there is one leg down, a little two-legged correction there, one leg up. You see that little two-legged correction, then another leg down. It didn't quite get a measured leg, but that's because it's a failed break lower. If you measure that, let's just want to get to see how close it is to a measured leg. We missed it by 2 ticks, it looks like. So, but that's still two legs down there, and there's a two-legged correction in the middle. But if you caught that, that's the trade of the day. You might have entered here because notice you're moving up. You've really got two touches here, but you definitely could consider that a second touch and maybe that a third touch. You are going high right into those highs right there, and it actually went lower first and turned and went back up on my chart. Um, so I like that when it does that. That's usually a good sign. And so you could treat that really like two tries, but your sure thing with your reversal pattern came here. The only problem with this one, this is a blue all the way, nice trade. But the problem here is that we got a break here. So it really makes it difficult to consider anything else the rest of the day. Um, so that's something to think about. But this is the trade. This is the sure thing, and then you got a sure thing reversal over here. Notice you're moving up. There's your first entry right there, and then you move up higher, and you get that second entry. Really, you could consider your reversal pattern right here. And this is so close to being blue. The only reason I don't like it being blue is it's right into that resistance right there. There's still some reasons to take it, but you're better off to wait here. Even here, you're close to these highs, but that's yesterday. You still got to consider them, though. But with that being a reversal pattern of trout, we're probably going to shoot on up, and it's going to probably be good for at least a scalp. You don't know that it's going to do this, but hey, this is a trend working up, and we did have a close outside, so that's the only reason this is probably not blue, because by this time this is looking like a really strong trend, and you get a second entry right off the trend line right there. There's a couple of ways to look at this. Usually when you get three legs like that, which is you got one leg and then a second leg and then a third leg, is usually I'll measure that first leg. I don't quite have that right there. And I'll drag that up because a lot of times that third leg will be equal to your first leg. And you can see we went a little bit higher, but this thing was, there's a lot of people trying to buy the highs here on that little pullback, and they probably got burned. But the other way I would measure this is um, once you had your break, sometimes you can never get it to grab the one you want. Once you've had your break, you usually get two legs up to a measured high, and you can see that that's basically two perfect measured legs right there. And so there's your two legs to a new high, and then it sells off. So you want to measure that both ways, but that is definitely a perfect price action. You get a close outside and then two measured legs up, and we reverse. We're coming down here. It's tempting to go short right here, but that's too much sideways action. And you better wait on your reversal pattern. Unfortunately, it moves a good bit, and so that probably scares you. But you know, when it turns up here and turns down again, that big bearish bar, we're going to at least test that low. But here's your clue that we were probably going to get a break, was this overshoot here. And generally, I'd tell you to wait on this to play out. But with this being a trap and a reversal, just like over here, you know, and that being the first break of that trend line, you got to take that because you're probably not going to get anything any better because this is looking really strong here. And I would measure this first leg down, and once we started lower again, you look for a measured move, and you can see we went a little bit further than that. But notice what happens. And I would also measure that leg just like I showed you on the other one, because it looks like you'll probably get two legs down here. And you can see we bounced right there. It looked like we were going to bounce, but it continues on lower. And then I would be looking for that measured leg like that one. But yeah, you get two attempts to go higher, it fails. That's not a perfect signal bar, but you should have drawn that trend line right there because this is way too steep. And this is what will happen a lot of times. You'll get a flatter channel, and you can see there's a little channel working there. We ended up overshooting that and going much lower. But what you probably want to do is get your measured equal distance, and you can see that would have been right there where it bounced, but it pushes on through that one, comes back and tests it, and pushes a little lower, and then it reverses. And we can't even get back any higher there. But that's another little channel that's working down right there because this first one's way too steep. If this hadn't been after 2 o'clock, I would tell you to probably consider this one. It's a little close to the low, though. I would have liked it better if we had come back to the EMA. You don't know that it's going to be that weak. And so, you know, this was just a hard read because everything's overshooting everything on the way up, and then we're overshooting on the way down. And it just was kind of a weird day. But you got two sure things here, here and here. And I almost want to say this one right here, but I won't, just simply because I'm not 100% sold on that signal bar right there. It's a fairly positive, bullish signal bar, but it's not the kind you want to see a perfect signal bar there if you're not waiting on a higher low. And you do get a little bit of a higher low right here, but then you don't have much room back to that high right there. And so that's a little bit concerning as well. So you don't get your sure thing till here, and then coming down, you don't get a sure thing till here. If you notice those two measured legs right there that are basically a perfect measured leg, and you had a really good signal bar here, I don't mind you taking a shot at that. But when you start trying to pick tops, it's really, really dangerous, and you better know what you're doing. But notice how long we've been away from the EMA. We did have a break here and two perfect legs up to two measured legs up. So if you had a really good signal bar, this is worth taking a chance on. Even just back to the other trend line, you're real close to having enough room to get out there. But So you got to be careful with that. And I'm going to mark it green, but I'm not even crazy about it being green. But I know somebody will probably ask me about it. And if you want to be really aggressive, you might take that. And here's another one. The same thing would have happened here. You would have had enough for a scalp. But you did have a break, and you never know if you're going to get that second leg down. And here's your second leg down. And if you tried to go long right there, look what would have happened. You would have got burned. And so that's why you got to be really careful with that. Of course, hopefully you saw this other channel here, and then you know, hey, we got another channel working down just a little flatter. And, that's another reason not to try to pick a bottom right there. So there's some clues and some tales here that tell you why this one is probably a little less risky than this one. But you got to be good and understand what you're looking at and really be able to read the price action to do that. And more people lose by trying to pick tops and bottoms than anything. So, you got to almost skip this one. And somebody will probably say, well, weren't you picking a bottom here? But that's a totally different, we're trading a range here, and that's how you trade a range. That's the difference. This is not really, we're not really trending down here. We're going straight sideways in a range, and that's a failed break lower. That's a total different animal right there. So for those of you that are probably going to ask me that, address that ahead of time. But yeah, we got some movement today. Let's hope it continues and kind of, it'd be nice to get a trend like this or like this all in one direction. Make it a little bit easier for most people, especially if we can get a clear trend line. So let's hope it continues to pick up. But I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.